Hey, everybody, just waiting till like maybe 1:05. We have lots of RSVPs and not everybody's here yet, so we'll just wait a couple more minutes. Okay, I think we'll get started. We are recording. You should be able to see my screen, but probably can't see me because I'm sharing. My name is Erica Shamley. I'm the Music and Entertainment Division Manager. Just want to welcome you all today to our second virtual workshop and Q&A. We will be recording all of this and sharing as a YouTube link. In fact, we just emailed everybody the YouTube link from the previous workshop through Eventbrite. So take a look at that, and you can, chat with us if you didn't receive that. But we'll resend both YouTube links after this is all said and done to absolutely everybody that attended. Let's see. Just to kind of give you a sense of how this will work, we have an interpreter that is part of the meeting for Spanish language interpretation, who can, at the after we're done with the presentation, say about 2 o'clock, 2:15, we can put you guys in a breakout room. Greg Gonzalez is hosting the meeting and we'll take care of that. Greg Gonzalez, say hi from Music Entertainment Division. And then I also hello. Want to call out Shelby Mitchell, also from the Music Entertainment Division, who will be manning the chat. Please put all of your questions in the chat, and then we'll hold, and Shelby will read all of the, the questions that are asked the most at the end. And then we will compile those most frequently asked questions along with the most frequently asked questions at the first meeting under the frequently asked questions part of our website at atxmusic.org. Go to atxmusic.org, click on the Awesome Live Music Fund link, and that will take you to the page about the program with guidelines, application assistance, including frequently asked questions. Now I'd like to introduce Kim Carson, who is the manager of this program, Awesome Live Music Fund, and she is going to take you through this presentation and introduce our interpreter. You're on mute, Kim.
Hello.
Thank you. Hello.
My name is Fred. I will be your Spanish interpreter.
Yes. Floyd, would you send a message to any of our Spanish speakers who might be in attendance today that the guidelines are available in Spanish on the Live Music Fund website, and that they will be there. We will set up a breakout room with staff and yourself for any questions in Spanish after this presentation. Go ahead, Floyd.
Si una persona tiene preguntas y después vamos a dividir las aulas en varias aulas y puede anotar sus preguntas y luego vamos a contestarlas y las preguntas.
Thank you so much. And we also may have a couple of people from the Long Center here today. The Long Center is our partner for grant administration, and I think we might have Maria Contreras. Are you there? Give us a wave if you're here.
Yeah,
and
Maria's
Cecile Ybarra.
Office today. Cecile is with us, who is our application assistance first point of contact for you guys. And she's listed there as Long Center application assistance. Thanks for being here, Cecile.
Thank you, Cecile. All right, so we'll go start with the next slide. All right, thank you. And I just want to remind you all that this program is now open and it will remain open through June 18th for applications until 7 p.m. If your application is received after 7 p.m. on June 18th, it will not be accepted. So please make a note. Don't try to send it a minute before or something because it might not get received by 7. So you want to give yourself plenty of time. So the Live Music Fund comes from the hotel occupancy taxes, and it's governed by the state statute, by city ordinance, and it came about from input from the community, stakeholders in the music industry, the Music Commission, Quality of Life Commissions, among others. The Music Commission also made a recommendation that added core equity principles through which the program was created, which you can also see here. You can click on that later once we get this presentation. Next slide, please. So if anybody wants to read that, you can. So the program purpose is to encourage, promote, improve, and showcase Austin's diverse music industry through supporting a wide array of activities marketed to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates, including live and online events to the public, studio, video, and merchandise production, promotional tours outside of Austin, broadcasting, and tourism marketing and promotional campaigns. These activities are all things that may be supported by the Live Music Fund. The core equity principles established by the Music Commission, we just mentioned a minute ago, are the basis for the equity training and strategic planning that awardees will be required to participate in during the course of the grant. These opportunities will be provided by the city at no cost. We'll talk about that later. Next slide. So the Live Music Fund is open to professional musicians, independent promoters, and live music venues. The total grant budget is $4.5 million. $3.5 million is set aside for musicians and independent promoters for grants of $15,000 or $30,000. The amount is the choice of the applicant. So the applicant chooses which amount. Grant agreements are for 2 years, so awardees will have 2 years to spend the money. $1 million is set aside for live music venues for grants of $30,000 or $60,000, depending on the size of the operating budget. $30,000 is for venues with an operating budget of less than $100,000, and $60,000 is for venues with an operating budget of $100,000 or greater. Grant agreements for music venues are for 1 year. Next slide. So professional musicians must meet at least one of the following requirements. At least 2 years of documentation showing that the applicant has regularly performed as a professional musician, solo or as part of a band, in live performances to public audiences, or 6 released recordings, or 6 promotionally released music videos. Keep in mind that you don't have to meet all of these, just one. So it's just enough to show that you've been playing professionally for 2 years, and that doesn't mean the last 2 years, and it doesn't have to be all in Austin either. Next slide. So professional musician applicants have to meet all of the following requirements. So all of these bullets you have to be able to check off. You have to live in the Austin Round Rock metropolitan statistical area and perform solo or in a band. So the MSA, we call it, is basically Travis County and all of the surrounding counties that touch Travis County. Only one applicant per solo musician or band, and the applicant cannot also apply as an independent promoter. So you can't apply for both, just one. You're either a musician or you can apply as an independent promoter. Musicians may perform in multiple bands receiving awards, but the lead applicant can only qualify for one application. So you can only have your name as the applicant on one application. But if you're a musician and you're working in other bands, that band might receive Live Music Fund money, and it can trickle down to you, that money. But your name can't be the applicant on that other application. We can talk about that more later. Unless a promotional tour, public activities must take place in Austin, the council districts, or ETJ, and include at least 51% of performers who fit the definition of a professional musician in our last slide and live in the MSA. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. Professional musicians must be compensated through at the same rate as the Austin musician pay rate. And that pay rate is $200 per musician per hour, up to groups of 6 people, $150 per musician per hour for groups of 7 to 10 people, and $1,500 total for groups of 10 or more. You got to be at least 18 years old, and you cannot receive consecutive awards after 2024. And what that means is that these grants are for 2 years. We have just said that the grants are, you have 2 years to spend the money. And so if you receive a 2024 award, you won't be eligible again until 2026. Please also note that an applicant may not accept both cultural funding, which would be a Nexus, Thrive, or Elevate grant, and a Live Music Fund grant in the same fiscal year. I just want to make sure that I'll hear that. All right, next slide. Independent promoters. So who's an independent promoter? An independent promoter would meet all of the following requirements. No more than 3 staff, including the owner, and you have documentation showing that the applicant has curated and promoted live shows featuring musicians and bands for at least 2 years, and must not be contractually tied to one venue. Next slide. All right, so these are very similar to the requirements of musicians. So you got to live in the Round Rock MSA. That's Travis County or all the surrounding counties that touch Travis County. Only 1 applicant per independent promoter. You cannot also apply as a professional musician. Unless a promotional tour, public activities must take place in the city of Austin, council district, or ETJ, and include 51% of performers who fit the city definition for professional musician and live in the city. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. All that will be required in your grant and in your application. Professional musicians compensated through grant funds are paid at least the city of Austin musician pay rate, as we just described. You got to be at least 18 years old, and you cannot receive consecutive grants after 2024. Next slide. All right. So to qualify as a live music venue, the applicant must meet the live music venue definition for this grant. A live music venue is where live music programming is the principal function of the business. Artists are compensated, and they meet 5 of the following criteria: defined performance and audience space, mixing desk, PA system, lighting rig, backline, at least 2 of the following: sound engineer, booker, promoter, stage manager, security personnel. Charges admission to some musical performances through ticketing or front door entrance fees. Markets acts through show listings in printed or electronic publications. Hours of operation coincide with performances, and you program live music at least 5 nights a week. Now you notice there's 8, and here you only need to have 5 of these things to be a live music venue. Next slide. So a live music venue, you must meet all of the following requirements. You got to be, again, in the city of Austin, council district, or ETJ. Activities must be marketed and promoted to visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates. Professional musicians compensated through this grant have to be paid at least the city of Austin musician pay rate. Previous year operating budget or profit and loss statement must be submitted in order to determine your grant award amount, and only 1 application per live music venue. All right, next slide. So this is a list of eligibility documents that you may upload to support your eligibility as a musician or an independent promoter. So if you're a musician or an independent promoter, these are the kinds of things that we're looking for to upload to prove that, yes, you are a professional musician or independent promoter by these guidelines. And you don't have to have everything on this list. These are just examples to give you, you know, an idea what kinds of documents that will help you establish eligibility. So a current resume, a biography, a screenshot of your LinkedIn work history, press demonstrating involvement with the music sector, your web link screenshots, printouts, scans of your portfolio, marketing materials for performances and et cetera. Materials showing merchandise created and sold, including screenshots of websites that exhibit or sell your products. Credits and liner notes are acceptable. Purchase advertising, contracts for performances, letter from an employer or manager stating your role or involvement in the music sector, website, screenshot of events or concert schedule location. All of those are acceptable ways of showing your eligibility. Next slide. All right, now this slide is the examples of eligibility documents for live music venues. Again, you don't have to upload all of these, but you will need to upload the operating budget or your profit and loss statement in order for us to determine your award amount. And that kind of thing can come from your accounting software, such as QuickBooks or whatever it is you use. So photos of performance and audience spaces, mixing desk, PA system, lighting rig, and backlight, something that shows that you have those things on site. Employee documentation for your sound engineer, booker, promoter, stage manager, security personnel. That could be a W-2, W-9, 1099. That stuff is all acceptable. Evidence of marketing placements and hours of operation, ticketing and frequency of live music. All this could be on your website. It could be on social media. It can be on print applications. All of that's acceptable. The previous year operating budget, of course, and profit and loss statement, again, to determine the grant award amount. Next slide. All right, this slide shows all of the eligible expenses. So in order, if you question about whether something is eligible, this is the list that tells you whether or not the thing that you're thinking of would be eligible or not, or you can ask us, of course. So this grant, keep in mind, is different from last year in that you don't have to create an event or a project to receive live music funds. Instead, Live Music Fund can pay for things that you're already doing. So commercial rent, for example, compensation to contractors like accountants, marketing, street teams, public events, studio, video production, compensation to employees, insurance. Live music venues would need general liability. Professional musicians and independent promoters would need special events insurance for public events. And that would be required, but it can also be paid for by this grant. Lodging and travel for participating visiting artists, performance fees and guarantees, stage lighting and sound rental, studio and video production rental, excluding capital expenditures, supplies, telephone, internet, tourism, marketing, merchandise production, paid ads, posters, banners, signage, venue rental. All of these things can be paid for with the grant. Next slide. So now, of course, we're going to show you the things that can't be paid for with the grant. And that's all of the following. Awardee travel. So your own gas, flights, hotel, tolls, parking, and ferries can be paid for under this grant. Expenses paid before the application due date. So we're not going to retroactively pay for things before the due date of this grant. Capital costs, including the purchase, construction, and renovation of equipment and property. Food and hospitality are not allowed to be paid for under this grant. Fundraisers and benefits, including entertainment and receptions. I know there's lots of benefits in the music industry. We cannot cover it with Live Music Fund grants. Startup costs for a new organization, consultants who are also employees, so you can't get paid twice under the grant. Payments to students or interns whose employment is tied to class credit. They're already getting class credit. Operating costs not associated with the project. Purchase of gifts, awards, cash prizes, scholarships, contributions, or donations. We do not pay for existing debts, fines, contingencies, penalties, interest, or litigation costs. Those cannot be covered. And taxes other than retail sales or payroll. When determining, I'm going to go back to the capital expenditures a little further up. When determining whether something is a capital expense, you'd want to consider whether or not it would be used up during the life of the grant. Things that are used up during the life of the grant are supplies, not capital expenditures. but things that can continue to be used after the life of the plan are typically capital expenditures. And if you have a question about what that is, you can always contact us. Next slide. All right, so now we're going to talk about scoring. Scoring for musicians and promoters. The applications will be scored in 5 categories, and those have to do with access to services, what kind of economic impact the applicant has, the applicant's programming and outreach, accessibility to the disabled and non-English speaking communities, and the general public, and whether or not you previously received live music funds. So things that are considered or limited access to services are maybe healthcare and financial lending, languages other than English spoken in the household, high level of dependency on music business income, lives in qualified census tract, and no grant funding from the City of Austin Cultural Arts last year. This is up to 35 points. So if you have a limited access to healthcare and financial lending, you'll get more points. If you're speaking languages other than English, that's worth points. If you have a high dependency on music business income, that's again worth higher points. If you live in a qualified census tract, and qualified census tract is determined by the federal government, it's a federal government term for parts of the city or locations that are economically impacted in an adverse way. It doesn't have a lot of economy there. And if you had no grant funding from the City of Austin Cultural Arts Division last year, you can also have additional points. The local economic impact, major questions here are, do you hire local musicians and other creatives? Do you hire local creative spaces? Do you hire local businesses for your operations, like merchandise production, marketing, PR equipment, storage of your equipment? Programming and outreach category includes, do you have programming that expands audiences and amplifies Austin's diverse arts and culture sectors? Do you have tourism marketing strategies to reach visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates as well as local audiences? So part of this is going to be your marketing plan, which is a spreadsheet in the application, where you will list out your marketing strategies. And those are worth points. Accessibility provides accessibility features for audiences with disabilities. Do you have programming for non-English speaking communities? Is programming open and accessible to the public? And then finally, if you did not receive the Live Music Fund 2023 last year, that's worth 15 points. Those are for people who did not receive funding last year. The next slide. All right, so scoring for the live music venues. So the application will be scored in the same 5 categories as the musicians and promoters. Limited access to services for live music venues is limited access to organizational healthcare and business funding. Also, is the venue located in a qualified census tract? Those things are worth 20 points. Local economic impact. Does the venue hire at least 40% local musicians and other creatives year round? Do you provide subletting opportunities? Do you provide free or low-cost temporary space for other creative organizations? Do you provide internships and apprenticeships? And do you hire local businesses for business operations? 25 points. Programming and outreach. Programming that expands audiences and amplifies Austin's diverse arts and culture sector, and tourism marketing strategies to reach visiting and potential tourists and convention delegates as well as local audiences. Again, there will be a spreadsheet that it will be your marketing plan that you will submit. And those marketing strategies are worth points. Accessibility provides accessibility features for audiences with disabilities and programming and features from non-English speaking communities to provide these things. That's worth 20 points. And previous city funding. If you did not receive the City of Austin grant funding in the previous year, and that would include Creative Space Assistance Program, for example, is worth 10 points. So if you did not receive those City of Austin grant funding last year, you could achieve those 10 points. Next slide. So there are some commitments that are attached to this grant for awarding. So if you win a 2024 Live Music Funding Award, you would be required to adhere to the following. That would be the professional musician compensation that we've discussed. If it's a promotional tour outside of Austin, there are some marketing requirements. You would need to have a tagline, Austin Live Music Fund presents, before the musician and band name is presented. Tourism marketing plan has to be targeted to potential Austin tourists and convention delegates. For public events, they have to be open to everybody. You're gonna have to have special event insurance that will be required. And you're gonna have to advertise the event on the Visit Austin event calendar online. There's training provided. It's required, but there's no cost. The trainings include equity, strategic planning, and tourism marketing and promotion. And the City of Austin marketing statements would need to be included on your marketing assets. Austin Live Music Fund presents, support provided in part by the City of Austin Economic Development Department, etc. Outcome and cultural tourism marketing reporting will also be required. There will be a progress report to achieve the second payment. First payment will be up front. When you sign the contract, it will be half, 50%. And then the next payment will come with the progress report when you complete that and turn that in and it's accepted. And then when your final report is completed with your equity strategic plan, you'll receive the final payment. Next slide. So we're here to help you through this process. You'll be able to watch the videos of the workshops from today and last week, and you can attend open office hours that are here, let's see, 1 to 3, Tuesday, June 11th, and 1 to 3, Tuesday, June 18th. The Long Center, again, is our partner, so please contact Create Austin at the Long Center for application questions. We're using the Submittable online application platform this year, so please use the technical support guide for any technical questions, such as logging in, creating an account. Don't try to use the old portal system because you won't be able to access the Live Music Fund 2024 application through the old portal system. You need to use this new system. The Create Austin at the Long Center will also be able to help you with any login issues. And again, there's lots of opportunities for help, so please reach out to us. This concludes my presentation. And so now we'll be referring to the chat for any questions.
Yeah, and I want to just point out that this presentation is on our webpage for the fund, both, I think, in both English and Spanish, so you can download this presentation. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can just go through the questions, if I can figure out how to do it. Let's see. Have I stopped sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Well,
Not yet.
no, I still see your computer.
Yeah.
It's a blank screen.
That's
Okay.
While y'all take care of that, I will start questions. Thank you so much, Kim. Always love watching you talk about it. You are an expert of this, so feel free, guys, to ask any questions that you have, literally anything. Last week was very fruitful. So I'll start with Nate at the top. Do producers still qualify? Kim, I'll leave it to you so I can look into the others.
Do students still qualify?
Producers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Repeat the question again. I think I got confused.
Do producers still qualify? Are they eligible to apply for this grant? They say they have produced enough releases to be eligible, but we want to be clarify if they can apply as artists. I'm assuming, Nate, feel free to
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 3 eligibility categories, which is promoters, musicians, and venues. You can be a musician who also is a producer, but you are applying on behalf of your band, and you can get paid as a musician in your band, but you can also be paid as a producer.
Thanks, Erica. Next question, can you please describe more about promotional touring? Would this include promoting a record made in Austin?
No, so promotional touring means outside of Austin. If you want to take the band on tour, you have to be outside of Austin for that to be covered. But if you are doing a record in Austin, that is also covered. So you don't have to put together your project and submit it in this application and say what it is. But when you submit your costs, they have to be allowable costs according to those costs that we just went through. They all have to be on that list. If they're not on that list, they're probably not allowable, and you should ask us. But promotional tours are something different than recording. But yes, if you do a tour, just the cost will be covered if you're touring outside Austin. But if you're doing a record year, you know, that's also covered.
So you could do both.
You could do both,
You could do
exactly.
a portion of both. Just be sure that your promotional tours outside of Austin carry the marketing requirements of Austin Live Music Fund Presents. And so you keep that in mind if you are hoping to do a festival or your support, because you may not be allowed to bring in your own marketing sponsorship requirements. So just keep that in mind.
We also have a question from a former applicant. They want to know if, well, they said they are throwing camps for musicians, artists, and songwriters and producers to collaborate and network. Would that event be eligible?
Is it open to the public?
It's sounding like, Nate, if you would
Yeah,
like to.
can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I did I don't necessarily like advertise it to like just anybody to show up, but it's like anybody can show up. Usually I market it to like musicians, managers, people who are like make music or work in the industry, but it can be open to the public.
So in order to receive live music funds, the whole purpose and the whole backing behind the live music fund is that it's paid with hotel occupancy tax money. And that tax money comes with strings attached. And the strings
Right.
attached are that we gotta make sure that we are advertising and marketing this to potential tourists. Because the money comes from the hotel, you know, the hotels, right? Their clients are levied an additional little tax that goes into these kinds of funds. And that they have an interest in making sure that means that we're doing things that help promote more tourists that will come to those hotels again, right? That's kind of the way this whole, you know, this whole thing works. So you want to make sure that you're marketing it to people outside of Austin potentially.
You
Yeah,
need to
people
market
inside of Austin
far
as
and
well,
wide.
but
Yeah.
go ahead, Erica.
See audience
Understood.
engagement, you know, so this definitely cannot be an exclusive audience, even though you could let people in. We really need to see that the marketing and the push of it is being marketed far and wide to, I mean, you could be, it's local tourists and convention delegates who are already here, which is also part of our local audiences. And then, of course, we want to see that promoted outside of Austin, promoting Austin Live Music Fund and Austin as a destination. So definitely it's not about exclusivity, it's about inclusivity and audience expansion, which also leads to more people interested in visiting our wonderful city.
Understood. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Thank you, Nate. If I'm a venue owner, and I also have myself employed as a sound engineer, can I pay myself? I just want us to point out that yes, if you're an employee, but there's also a clause in the ineligible expenses that won't allow consultants. It's not coming to my mind, but there's a line item about consultants working as employees as well, and that other. But Kim, Erica, while I look at the questions.
Thank you, Shelby. So you can pay yourself in this grant, but don't pay yourself in two line items where one you're an employee and the other you're a consultant. Because
Right.
the guidelines state that you can't pay somebody twice that way as a consultant and an employee. So just pay yourself once, you know, through the grant.
Yeah, I mean, because it's different for musicians, you know, and promoters that it's contracting, and there's so many of these contracting rules, but in a venue, it really is, you're getting paid a certain amount to work in a venue, and that could include lots of responsibilities. So you can't just pay yourself a lot more than you typically would. You have to pay what your role is within the venue. And if it's a salaried position where you have many roles where you're the booker and the sound person, you know, that's fine. But just think of that as reflected in your salary.
So this question is more in relation to qualifying as a live music venue. One of the parts is like, in order to qualify as a live music venue, you have to have two of the following. And it was like a door person, a stage manager, a sound engineer. And I'm just curious if if the owner is also a sound engineer, if that would count as one of those.
Oh, no, because that's not about how they're paid. It's about the roles to define you as a live music venue. Do you have an engineer? Do you have these things to create a live music experience every night?
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. What if I won an award in 2023 through a different program? Can I still apply? Yes, you can. At this point, both the fiscal and calendar year, if you have applied and won something, shout out to you, one. But you can also apply for this program. But keep in mind any other programs you apply for within our economic development department in this fiscal year. If you accept, though, it's all a matter of what you accept, and you cannot be awarded more than one in one fiscal year. And at this point, if you are awarded this Live Music Fund grant as a promoter or a musician, you have 2 years to use the funds, and also you cannot apply for any of our economic development programs. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, staff. And also as a venue, you have 1 year, a little bit shorter than the promoters and musicians, but just keep that in mind as you make your commitments going forward.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour commitment for
Full year.
Live Music Fund. So in this fiscal year, you couldn't apply to the cultural arts programs. But since it's a 2-year program, in fiscal year 25, you could go apply for a cultural arts program next year. Yeah, and so you can have 2 agreements happening at the same time for different grants if they're totally separate things, because they don't award the same things that we award for, but you just can't have it happen in the same fiscal year.
Thanks, Erica. Can the event take place outside of Travis and surrounding counties, but still be marketed and promoted to Austinites and tourists? The short answer is no for that, but what you got, team? You
Yeah.
cannot have an event. outside.
51% of
Yeah.
the project that's being paid for would need to be taking place in Austin. So
Yeah, if it's public facing, it has to be in Austin, unless it's a
Right.
promotional tour, which has its own kind of unique set of.
right, if it's an event, right, then it needs to be
Yeah, and the ETJ. And that makes up 5 counties: Bastrop, Caldwell, Hayes, Travis, and Williamson.
No, that's ETJ it's the council districts
Oh, okay.
and the ETJ. The MSA is those other things.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. But within those counties, sorry, it gets tongue-tied. Within those counties, please feel free to move about as you serve those counties. That's fine. But outside of that,
No,
As
you can look it up.
yeah,
Public event has to be in the ETJ, and there's a lookup tool to see, like, is this venue or is this location for my public event in the ETJ? You can just plug it in and do a search.
as a promoter, do we need to show 2 fiscal years of activities? Which is 2022, 23, and then also 23, 24.
2 years. They don't have to be the last 2 years. But we need 2 years.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a fiscal year type of thing. It
Right.
show us some old show posters that say 2019 and 2017 or 2024, 2017. It doesn't, just so that we can tell that it was over, that you have experience.
Right.
Got it.
And it doesn't
Thank
have
you
to be
so-
consecutive, right?
Correct.
Thank you so much. So just to clarify, if I showed something from 2023 and 2024, would that qualify?
Yeah, but just show us that you have like a good amount of shows, if it's
Right.
just 2 shows, like 1 a year, I would really definitely kind of be fed up and show that you have experience as a promoter for 2 years.
Just one point of reference here. So if you show something that's, April 2023, and then you did the same event again in April 2024, that's a year. That's not 2 years. And so the people who are scoring it, and it's not me, but the people who are scoring it will probably look at that and think, oh, that's 1 year. Do you have another year? So be cognizant of the dates that you're showing.
Understood. Thank you. And it doesn't matter whether we were incorporated yet as when we presented our first concert, or does it have to be from the year of incorporation?
We're not requiring an official business like an LLC or anything. You don't have to be incorporated to be a promoter. A lot of times people just, choose a name. This is my promoter name. So you don't have to have a formal business structure around that. In fact, any of the questions that you find the application asking around your business structure, your EIN, or anything like that, you can just skip those questions or say prefer not to answer.
I have a question about eligibility. I am trying to write the grant with the angle of kind of a record producer in conjunction with live events for the release. Is that going to fly?
You're not, you have to be a musician, a promoter, or a venue. A producer is a job within that works with those groups, but that's not the eligibility category that was approved by the Music Commission.
Okay.
So you have to be a musician as well. That can also be a producer, and you're applying on behalf of your band. But you could also, you know, have a production component to that. That's no problem, and pay yourself as a band member and as a, you know, a production, you know, contractor. But
Right.
yeah,
Okay, so
But let's-
I am all of those. I'm actually, you know, a musician. I've promoted shows around town and everything. I'm just trying to find out, like, my idea is that I want to produce 7 inches of local bands, like maybe, you know, one every quarter or something like that. And then produce a live event in conjunction with that 7-inch.
Yeah, as a musician, as long as you can show us the eligibility qualification as a musician, you can do those other things, as long as they're in the eligible expense category.
Okay, so I can record other bands and release their records too?
I mean, we don't have anything in the guidelines that specifically says if you applied as a professional musician, you can, but you must perform. The eligibility is the eligibility. This is to
Okay.
professional musicians, promoters, and venues.
So Shelby, do we still have other questions in the chat?
Oh, yes, we have.
Let's finish that before we take any more live.
Erica,
questions.
can we go back to the last question that Anna Petrova was asking?
Mhm.
I think she wanted to say something about that they were currently considered a nonprofit organization. Anna, are you still there?
Yes, that's correct. That's exactly what I meant. And I said incorporated instead of our nonprofit status. Thank you so much.
Are you a
Yeah.
professional band that's a nonprofit? Like,
We are a presenter that is a nonprofit since March of last year.
oh, no,
But we
that's
have been-
okay. There's no, as long as you can show that you are a promoter, that you have the experience promoting those music, you know, music presentations.
Concerts,
that's fine.
right. And even before we were a nonprofit organization, that was my question, because we started with small concerts about 2021. And this past year, 2023 through 2024, was our first massive season with over 7 performances in many different venues in Austin. And that was our question, whether we will be still eligible to apply for the grant now, or whether we should wait for 1 more year.
Now, I think you can reach back to the, you know, whether or not you are a nonprofit, nonprofits don't get special consideration in this grant anyway. So it's really all about your experience. And I think if you can show the 2 years of the experience, you know, promoting as a promoter, then that's what you need.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Shelby,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah, so we have, for y'all asking questions, I'm gonna try and summarize your questions with your context that you've given. Somebody is looking to understand if $200 per hour is the minimum. Yes, that's the city's rate. Definitely strongly suggested, and also almost enforced for this grant, as far as a minimum that you pay for your performance artists and your contract or your performances. But that's just suggested. You can go higher than that, but we ask that you don't go under $200, and you can't do that for this grant. Kim, Erica, and the person asked the question, feel free to hop in for a brief comment.
Right. Or if you're asking for city funds to cover those performances, you absolutely got to stick to the city rate
As a minimum, you can pay.
as a minimum. Yeah.
It's just our minimum. If you show that in your reporting that I paid musicians, be prepared you know, and this is for all grants, is to save those receipts, because you could get, you know, we get audited just, and so people will say, hey, show us the, you know, these 5 awardees said they paid musicians and to do this, this, and this, or they paid for these expenses. Can you go get their receipts so we can just confirm that? And so this is this is where it's different for the music industry. We're not used to this around grants. Save the receipts, because you will be asked, or you could be asked, show us that you paid what you said you were going to pay, and so it's not going to, it's just usually just something that could happen. Just be prepared with that.
Okay, but also make sure this is super important, because if you don't keep these receipts and you're asked for this information, if there's an audit or something like that and you don't have this, you know, this is a non-compliance issue. This means that you would not be in compliance, and you know that could put you at risk for not receiving future grant funds.
Just to be clear, you're using receipts. Are invoices, are contracts all fine to keep as the proof of payment for artists, or is when you're saying receipt, are you looking for something else?
Well, typically an auditor, it's good to have invoices and have all of that information, but you know, an auditor would want to see what is your canceled checks or your receipt from Venmo or however you paid them, PayPal, just to show that there's a receipt.
No,
Awesome.
this is, you don't need this for the application. This is down the road. If you're an awardee and you win a grant, then you would need to keep these, and receipts is that's what auditors want, not invoices so much. I mean, it's good to have that, but you need something that's marked paid.
Thank you.
Who's next, Sheldon?
I'm on mute. Okay. I was just talking to myself. Sorry, AJ, I might need some help on this one, but I'm going to read it verbatim while you have a chance to come back. Do you need to be paid the Austin going rate in order to qualify? What if you are paid under? And I'm not sure what this is speaking to. So AJ, if you're there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
like to qualify, do you need to be paid the 200 at minimum, or like, because I've played some places in Austin where I've been paid like 150 or something, you know?
No. That's a requirement of the awards, of like, if you are going to use the grant funds, you better be paying that minimum. That has nothing to do with qualifying as a musician.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks so much. Do rehearsal complexes rooms qualify as creative spaces? I think that was just bumped up or moved because I can't see it anymore. But there is a term for creative spaces, and I can read it right now if staff is cool with that.
Do you have it open? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Creative
Great.
spaces. Yeah, creative spaces are commercial locations that include both for-profit and nonprofit creative spaces, including live music venues, recording studios, performance venues, theaters, museums, art galleries, and everything in between. If you have a specific question around that, feel free to hop on, but I feel like that's all inclusive. It sounds like recording studios, dance studios, for rehearsals, if you will, or anything to bring your event or your project to life. Sounds like it would work for this. Kim and Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have never run into a problem with people spending to get their project done. So that's really what that is for a creative space.
Yeah, you can't for your personal space, like
right. I see that
in the back of the venue, which is your house.
It's commercial. It's commercial, non-residential. So if you have any questions specific around that, please email us. But commercial. Is the marketing spreadsheet embedded in the application? In other words, an existing form that we fill out? Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. And we have line items for almost everything. If you take a look, you should be able to find whatever you'd like to include and consider. If not, there's also a line item to include things we may have not mentioned or thought about. Do all musicians in the band need to be full-time musicians to receive the grant? No. No, 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 no. You just have to have a need. And just keep in mind that there's only one person that can represent the band and can go on behalf to apply for this grant. Can these funds be used to purchase insurance? For sure. Event insurance for sure. Kim, if you want to elaborate around any of that, feel free.
Yeah, so live music venues can, will have general liability, and this grant can pay towards that, as well as if someone is doing a live event, they will be required to have special event insurance. Even if they're doing their event in a venue that already is covered with their own insurance, it's going to have to carry special event insurance this year. And that can be paid for. It's not usually a very expensive thing, but it can be paid for through this grant.
Thanks, Kim. F. Ferguson asked, can the training be received, taken, even if you don't win an award? That's a beautiful question. Kim and Erica, if you could take a chance to answer. I know we have plenty of programs within our department, but for this training, I would like to know the answer as well.
Might depend on how filled the spaces are. Erica, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm sorry, what was the question? My
Can,
apologies.
if they don't win an award, can they still take training that we offer for awardees, grantees?
We've talked about that. It's currently 4 awardees. I'd have to go check and see if there are restrictions within our contract for that workshop training. But let me find out, and we'll find out for you.
Can you send us your email so that we know how to contact you? Whoever asked that question, just make sure that if you can send it, you can send it to me. And then we can respond to you. And I will pop my email in here real quick for y'all. If I can find where to put it. You can move on if you want.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna move on to this one question, but I might need some help, Maria. Because I missed the list for previous city funding. Could you explain that portion again? Is that funding for just the venue or funding from the city altogether? Maria, if you want to hop in for a question, if we don't understand it, maybe it's something that you can find also in this video as well. It's all being recorded. And it'll be shared on our website.
Yeah, for venues, it's previous city funding is like the Creative Space Assistance Program, the Austin, Economic Development Corporation. It's if you've received, any city funding for your venue in the past year, you don't get extra points, just like you don't get extra points with the Live Music Fund. And so it's just that we want to prioritize people who have never received city funding. And so there's different scoring that does that.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you. That was my question, and then I noticed other people had asked similar questions, so yes, it was answered. But yes, that was my question, because I heard her listing some city funding, and I thought I missed something, so that's all I was asking.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Maria. Justin asked, is there a match for this grant?
No.
All right, let's go. Come on, Erica, with the immediate question. Justin, hope you got it. Quick no right there. Reading this verbatim, just want to clarify if my address is in San Marcos, but most of the shows my band has played in the past 2.5 years have been in Austin. Are we still eligible? Not to my understanding.
Well, you have to be in the MSA, so you can.
Is that Hayes?
You have to.
Yes, Hayes County.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Sorry, honey.
It depends exactly where you are. So there is a lookup tool for the MSA, and it will tell you if you are in the Austin MSA or not. So just check.
Yeah. Can insurance, the venue already has used or is acquired to purchase, or are we required to purchase insurance? Good question. If we use a public venue. So they're asking, can the venue offer insurance, or do the promoters, I'm assuming promoters and musicians have to do that themselves?
So we don't, if you're doing an event at a music venue, we don't have any control over the music venue providing a copy of that insurance, or, even if what if that venue let their insurance lap and we just didn't know about it, or you didn't know about it, and you had your event there. We require special event insurance. So for this grant, we're going to require that you get special event insurance. It is not a high dollar item as insurance goes. And because it's only for like 1 date or maybe 2 dates or something like that. It's not a terribly expensive thing. It can be covered under this grant, but you will have to have it if you're doing a public facing event.
And that's just because insurance market has changed. It used to be that you could very easily just ask the venue to be an additional insured, for that date. but that's turning into an issue for venues because it's costing more or the insurer saying no. So we're just trying to work around that, make it easy on you guys and make sure that you feel covered, you know it's covered, because it can be a lot of work to try to, you know, get a venue to get in touch with their insurance folks and just get it done. So very easy to get this type of insurance.
Can you guys help us can I attend something where I could learn more about that kind of insurance? Because I wouldn't
Well,
even know.
The
Contact.
Lawn Center provides some information that might help you get started on it.
Yeah, it's pretty typical. We can the city can't recommend specific vendors, but yeah, definitely when you if you're awarded and as you're working with the Lawn Center on if you need that, they can give you some tips.
So we don't have to have that in the application. We don't have to include the insurance in the amount.
No. If
Okay.
you can get a quote and find out how much insurance would cost, and then you can put that into your budget if you want to do that. If you think that's something you're going to
It's
end up
not
paying for the
required.
city funds, but yeah, it's not well, it's not required for the budget. I mean, if you have a public event, the insurance will be required.
Not for the application.
But yeah, not for the application. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, you can put it in if you want to go get a quote for it and include it, but you don't have to. A budget is a budget, and
Sorry.
a
Go ahead.
budget is a preliminary thing. If you want to include it later, you can, and it's an eligible cost, so it won't be rejected. And
Yeah,
that would be
the
fine.
budgets within the application are to help you prepare and to remind you what is covered and what isn't in terms of allowable expenses. But we will give awardees more detailed working budgets so that it's a more practical budget for our industry so that you can keep track of stuff.
So the budget that we're submitting doesn't have to be every penny accounted for in advance?
No, you could,
No.
because that could change depending on what you do. And so that's just to help you start planning. But obviously things change, you know, events get canceled, hold doesn't work out. I mean, we understand.
The budget form in the application is really all about what are you going to spend the city money on? It's not your entire budget for your year, for your business. It's just what are you going to spend the city money on? You know, and I'm going to spend it a little on recording, or I'm going to spend a little on touring, or I'm going to spend a little on marketing, or whatever it's going to be. It might be, maybe it's going to be all about one event, and that's okay too. But don't look at it as a project budget necessarily. This is going to be like, we're asking you, what are you planning? What do you think you're going to spend the money on? We need to make sure it's allowable costs.
Yeah, because we will, in your progress reports and final reports for the next payments, we'll ask you, how did you spend the money, you know, and so you can kind of then go start putting in the actuals into what you've spent it on around the allowable costs. And again, just keep your receipts just in case down the line there's an audit and that's just very typical stuff with grants.
That is so helpful. Thank you so much.
Shelby, who's next?
Yeah, I wanted to offer opportunity just in case we had any Spanish speakers here, to just kind of remind them that there is an option. We do have an interpreter. Okay.
I'm a
And
speaker, but I also speak English.
okay, cool. So for those that are, if our interpreter is still here, if we can offer that invitation for Spanish speaking only applicants and attendees, that there is an option to break off if they have any questions to speak with you. I don't know if it's still.
And so Greg Gonzalez will create a breakout room for any Spanish speakers who would like to speak through an interpreter. For the breakout room, just put the names in the chat so that he knows that you need a breakout room and who you are.
Freud, can you please interpret that so that if we do have anyone who can't understand us, they'll know that if they have questions that they can do this? Thank you.
Ok, y si hay algunas personas que hablan español que tienen preguntas, usted pueden avisar y van a dividir las aulas y escribir las preguntas.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're
Greg,
welcome.
if you can keep a lookout for that, Greg, because I'm so far at the top. Back to the questions. Seth is unclear about where the actual application is. Please go to atxmusic.org. That is where our application is live. You have until June 18th if you needed a reminder. But it's there. There's a button for it, and it screams as soon as you get on the page.
And it takes you to the Long Center portal for you to
Mhm.
log in or sign up through Submittable. So just click through that Apply Now button on our webpage.
Yeah, important, when you get to that, when you click on our page, you'll get to the Long Center page Erica just told you about, you'll want to scroll down. And to get into the application, it's at the bottom of that page. So you'll scroll down and you'll see it. It's English and Spanish. You click, and then it will send you, and it'll have a bunch more information. Scroll down, and you'll see section 1. Start filling in.
You'll need to create a Submittable account. And
Yeah, right. If you don't have
parents are
one.
happy with that.
We had a question earlier from an attendee who I don't think is here anymore, but they were asking what sort of documentation is mandatory for proof of work when applying as a promoter. All that information is on the website. Like, it's stick to it. If you have any specific questions around what might work for you, please email us at music@austintexas.gov, but it is pretty straightforward in eligibility on our website. If we could please hold any burning questions, so like I release it. I'm still trying to get through all the other questions, but feel free to keep the hand up for
Yeah,
sure.
real quick, around eligibility or documentation, it can be a link to a calendar, to your webpage. It could be a link to the old event page. That's fine. You can do links, or you can upload screenshots, photos, whatever, scans. So you have the option. You can do it either as an upload from your computer or your phone, or you can just add the link there so that you can link the evaluators to the evidence.
We had a question around submitting multiple applications kind of thing. Just to reiterate, because it was a long explanation, reiterating that you can only have one application for yourself. If you are a part of a band and somebody else, the lead member, goes for this application, you yourself can also apply as your own entity or as a promoter or any other thing that works for you. At the end of the day, only one application per person, and you have to make a decision on who and what you're going to support. And yeah, but if you have 5 members of the band, 5 people can apply for 5 different roles under this live music fund.
You can't, there's only one band, one application per band. So you could be in several bands.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So one band, the lead singer goes for it, the lead goes for it, but the other 4 people can be different entities for different things, but only one person can apply for their band.
But so if you're in a band, but you lead a different band, you can apply as the lead on your other band. That's fine.
Okay, this is Jake. I had that
Hey,
question.
Jake.
I got a grant last year, and I guess my question is, what do if I did it if I qualified as an independent promoter, well, I just did South by shows and I booked my own band and bills at Hole in the Wall for years. Do I still qualify that? Or even though I applied and got a grant for a show, I probably got it as a band still. So that's kind of my issue. I guess I'm wondering if I even qualify as a promoter, because I think that's my drummer wants to record us and get paid for it. Getting paid for everything is our main problem, is making the time for it, because we got to make money, right? But if I'm doing shows, I'm wondering if I can even apply under that as an independent promoter.
You could apply for either one. It doesn't matter if you have the eligibility evidence to show that you're a lot of band musicians or professional musicians also will promote shows that their band is a part of. And so it really doesn't matter either way. It may give you a little bit more flexibility to apply as a professional musician, and then, build out your what you want to do based on what's eligible for the grant.
Okay.
So it really
All
doesn't
right.
matter as long as the evidence is there for your eligibility.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if I don't meet those criteria, then my drummer probably couldn't submit to record the same band.
Yeah. I don't try to get around it as, hey, I'm a promoter, but really it's around this one band. So you can't really have you ever apply for the band and you as a promoter when it's you, the promoter, who in the context of your band. That's a very
But okay,
so
let's say I do the shows. Am I able to employ that band, that same band, or the band I'm in, if he did recording as well?
yeah, so if you apply for your band, you can pay your band for live performances, for their recordings, you know, for whatever it is that they do, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get paid for those things.
Okay. All right. I'll probably have to email you, but thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for the question, Jake. What if you use Austin musicians to tour Texas or surrounding states? And if it feels straightforward enough, Erica, but it kind of makes me think of a question. Can touring costs be compensation? Because we cannot pay for flights, hospitality, food. You can't do that. But could it be paid to hire the band or hire your musicians to travel?
Yes, and your tour manager, your whoever contractors you're using in the for that tour. So yeah, compensation's fine. Merch, your marketing, especially your marketing. So anything but the ineligible expenses.
I see.
thank you.
Laura hopped on. Okay, is that good?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that even though the tours might not be in Austin, they might be outside Austin, but I'm using Austin musicians. That's okay.
That's part of your job as musicians. That's what we're trying to promote and do with this grant is to actually you get paid, you know, for what you're supposed to be paid for. Just be sure that there's a good marketing plan. It's Austin Live Music Fund presents, you know, and that you're prepared to show kind of how did the marketing go? Where were your markets? How did you do it? And so there will be training and support to help all of you with your marketing spins and also how to analyze those. How's it working? You know, maybe this, you know, maybe I should change this digital spend. It doesn't seem to be getting any kind of, you know, people aren't really looking at it. So I think I'm going to shift it to be this type of audience and, you know, help with that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Can the independent promoter be a group or a company, or does it need to be an individual? It needs to be all of you together, it needs to be 3 or less. And you can also pursue by yourself, but your team cannot be more than 3 people, but you can contract people to help you bring whatever you're going for to life.
For a group that is the promotion company, whether it's an LLC, a nonprofit, doesn't really matter. Just if you can't have more than 3, including the owner.
Can musicians can only apply for $15,000 and $30,000 grants? That is a question. Or can they have somewhere in between like $20K if that's what their budget needs? No, that's only what's offered. So it's 15 or 30K for professional musicians and independent promoters, and for live music venues as it stands, $30,000 will be awarded to budgets under 100K, excuse me, and over 100K it's 60,000. That's what it is. And so filling out your application, you just have to choose one of the 2 that will support whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, and we don't score differently based on if you choose 15 or 30. And so if you feel like, wow, 30, that's so much, I should get that, but you don't know how to spend it, then just apply for 15, because, you know, this is an investment in your small business as a musician, as your, you know, these are all small businesses, music businesses here in Austin. And so don't bite off more than you can chew, you know. 15 is fine, because that also has more money for other people to also get a grant. You know, 30 can be spent very easily with recording and, you know, one show, you know, organizing one show. So you may not be quite there yet to know, like, how would I spend that? And that's okay. Do 15 and bite off what you know, get that training from us. And then in 2 years, you can apply, you know, you have more professional experience and capacity to say, okay, I know exactly how I'm going to spend 30. That's when I apply for it.
Thank you for that question. When do you have to have 6 singles released by? Can you do it by the application due date? I would say by then, but definitely not after. But Erica, Kim.
Kim?
Yeah, so yeah, we don't have any specification about when those have to be released. There's not any directional information about that. So if they're released before your application, then that should be fine. But yeah, that's all. I'll stop there.
This definitely sounds more like a specific question or a conversation piece. So if it ends up being that way, let's keep it short. But can you explain how making a record is promoting tourism? If it's just an album and not a performance, how does that meet requirements? Well, our requirements are our requirements for sure, but also completing an album for you to promote is probably more key than a event itself because it's evergreen. And you can circulate that as much. That's just my opinion. But Erica, Kim, I mean, like I said, our requirements are our requirements. But
yeah, musicians and you guys should be promoting absolutely everything you do. Even if you're in the studio for 2 years, you know, do some Instagram stories, do whatever. You have to stay connected with your audience, or you know, in order to succeed and to continue to grow your band. So it could be some Instagram stories or whatever that while you're in the studio, it could be teasers. There's all different ways that we know how to promote things within the music industry, you know, to our audience, which we always want to expand our audience, our fan base, our potential ticket buyers or potential people who are going to buy the record eventually. So just, you know, that's just good business sense in this industry, is to continue to be promoting to your audiences, which include potential tourists and convention delegates to Austin. Just keep that in mind. You know, this is a great, when you're in the studio, it's a great opportunity to start teasing out into the world to see where that fan base could be beyond Austin. And so again, there will be professional development and training to help with that if that's something you've never done before. But all musicians, you know, truly, you guys should be continuing to connect with your fans, even if you're not touring or playing shows right this second.
Question: if I was awarded the 2023 grant for one project band, will I be deducted 15 points if I apply for the live music grant for a different band? If you are the same applicant as you were in 2023, then you will not be prioritized for the 15 points there. I think that's what it is. It's just based on the applicant themselves, not the different projects and the different bands that you're a part of.
Yeah. The grant agreement, who
yeah.
Yeah.
As a professional musician, is there any advantage, disadvantage to selecting 15 or 30K? I think Erica explained that great. You know, it's all an honest review. It's just a matter of what can you do with the money and what you can handle. And that's left up to you guys. As a professional musician running a solo project with a live band, in section 5 of the application referring to me personally or my band. I don't know if section 5 is coming to me right now with some
That's the graphic information, and it depends if you answer you're an individual or if you have an LLC or some kind of business structure. This is not scored. This is just for data collection purposes only for the Economic Development Department. So if you select I am a business structure, then it'll ask you a bunch of questions and it's about your band, you know, like leadership, your demographics. If it's just you, it's demographics about yourself.
Shelby, did you say section 5 of the application?
That's what I read.
Can you read what the question was again? Because section 5 is different. Can you read it again for me?
And Andrew, if you are here, you like to clarify, please do.
It's about local economic impact.
Okay, it says as a professional musician running a solo project with a live band, is section 5 of the application referring to me personally or my band?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm asking this because I work for venues here in Austin. So like personally, I've like promoted and ran events and also worked a lot of events. But I don't know if that necessarily applies to this, because I feel like it's more in reference to my band. But I also feel like maybe this question is more trying to cater to like there being like live venues in the application and whatnot. So I'm just curious how I should like compartmentalize that.
So Erica, the question comes under section 5 for local economic impact. And the question is what best describes how your past activities have supported Austin's economy, including creatives, tourism, and local businesses. So there's different things you can select, you know, like musicians and creatives or local creative spaces, et cetera. So he's asking, is this just me, even though I'm applying on behalf of a band? Can I just use my personal experience? It doesn't have to do with the band, or does it have to be that the band hires local musicians and the band hires creative spaces and the band, et cetera?
Well, honestly, you know, you could have a new band. It could, you know, musicians have lots of bands, and let's say you applied, you know, that you've done some of these types of things under the guise of a band that hasn't played together in a while, and you're applying to really, you know, focus on this new band and this new collaboration. That's totally okay for you to show proof of your previous experience providing those things, because that's, you know, we want to prioritize folks who have prioritized the community in the past, with the sense being that you're going to continue to do so with these funds. So that's fine. You know, they're, as musicians and as promoters, I mean, you're all in lots of bands. And so we're not going to, it's about the experience as a, within your eligibility category as a professional musician.
So for example, I work for 2 venues in town as their stage manager, and one of these checkboxes is supporting local businesses for applicant music needs. Does that count as supporting a local business? I mean,
are you applying as a venue or as a musician?
as a musician.
So your own employment somewhere isn't really what the question is asking about. It's asking about, do you hire other people? What is your local economic impact? What is your impact to the local economy?
As a professional musician, not
Yeah. That would be local economic impact to yourself, because you got hired, right?
And so then one of the checkboxes is supporting local businesses for applicant music needs. How would that fit into there? Like what would be an example of that, I guess, is basically what I'm asking.
Local designers,
Yeah,
local
merchandising,
designers, local musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thanks so much for that. I just want to revisit this question for those that are still here around the 2 years. I see it pop up. I'm trying to make my way through and probably already got it by now. But the 2 years that qualify for documentation, proof of all that you are, all the amazing things you've done, they do not have to be consecutive. They do not have to be consecutive fiscal years. They can be all the way from 2008, pre-pandemic. We are mindful of that. Things slowed down and you might just be hopping back in it, but we don't want to discount the work you've done. So
Literally,
2 years.
it could even be 20 years ago. Let's say you were a successful jazz musician that toured all over the world, and then you know, life happened and you had kids and a family, blah. You are a professional musician, and that experience from 20 years ago is exactly relevant, because that's, again, what this grant is trying to do, is create a more equitable and diverse live music industry in Austin, which is reflective of all generations, all genres, and it's to provide you the support to go and do more stuff.
Yes, and if we can wait, I'll only reach out to people to clarify their questions. So if you want to drop it in the chat and I make it to it, you can clarify your question when we get there. But back to the questions here, can some of this grant be used for an LLC purchase? My quick answer is no, because that's a startup cost. I was hoping to get some clarification around requirements for shows as a promoter. One of the questions are we allowed to ticket? Are shows allowed to be ticketed to qualify as open to the public? Absolutely. We don't want to compromise your opportunity to make money here. So in the marketing, there's an opportunity for you to think about tickets and selling those and what you'll get back, and then also merchandise that you want to sell as well. We are not stepping on and suffocating you to the point you can't make money. This is a launch pad for you to do all of that as far as your events. But they also want to know, is there a requirement around requirements for these shows to be conducted, or is there a cap on that? Every event, every project you have has to follow the requirements. So if you can manage to get in the next 2 years, you can apply. If you do 2 events, they have to follow everything we've laid out in our requirements to lift a project, an event, or whatever you're trying to get done. There's no cap on that. Like if the first one hits all the line items, the next one has to do the same.
Right. And you can earn money from sponsorships, ticket sales,
Yes,
whatever. in
yes.
addition to this grant, it's to do a bigger thing. That's totally fine. We just are interested in how you're using the funds for this particular grant, not the whole budget. There's no match. You know, we're gonna be from an auditing perspective and a reporting perspective, we want to know, how did you spend city funds?
For anybody who doesn't understand what we mean when we say there's no match, and I just want to explain that real quick. In the grant world, and a lot of you may not have ever applied for a grant before, so I want to just let you know what this is. A lot of times grants require that you do a 50-50 match, which would be if we give you $100, you have to spend $100 out of your own pocket on something in the project. We're not doing that. We don't require any match. You can, your entire, whatever you're doing, like if you wanted to do, if you're doing a record or a recording or, you know, an event, if the city funds that you get can pay the whole thing, yay, that's great. It's, you know, you don't have to put your own money into it, but we're not even requiring that you've set out a project. This could be for multiple projects. So just, there's no match. You don't have to show us that you're putting X dollars into this project out of your own pocket.
Yeah, this is truly like business investment in your small business as musicians, promoters, and venues to help offset costs you typically would put on a credit card, or you would just not pay yourself or pay your band. This is to finally set the level set, to have the funds to do it right as a business, and earning money is just fine. This is business development for you guys.
Can you please explain more about how musicians can be paid as performers in their bands as part of their budget? Would this include performances, rehearsals, studio sessions, things like that? And maybe Erica, you can go through how that works without disqualifying themselves or that line item?
No, not at all. So that's why, like, when we give awardees a detailed budget that kind of breaks down like all the elements that could happen of what you would pay for. Someone has to get paid. You know, you can have several roles. I'm a producer. I play, bass in this band, and I also do design work. And those are all line items within your overall budget for any business. And that's okay to use these funds. And if you were getting paid to do that, because these are separate roles, you just can't overlap. You can't pay yourself you just can't pay yourself just to do one thing and saying you're doing other things. And it's just, you're paying for the role, you're paying for the work that was done. And if you're paying yourself to do it, that's okay. You should be getting paid.
Yes. Thank you. If awarded in this fiscal year, when do we have to use it? FY25 and FY26, or is this a calendar year? Can you?
It'll be 2 years from the date that you sign the contract.
Up to, and you can do it all in the first 3 months, or you can take the whole 2 years.
We have artists interested in producing a web series that promotes music of themselves and other performers around Austin. They're asking if something like this would be eligible. Yes, it is eligible for this grant.
Yeah, as long as it's promoted to potential tourists, convention delegates, and your fan base outside Austin, and that you please include the marketing requirements of Austin Live Music Fund presents and all of that stuff.
Some of the musicians I hire are from Lubbock and San Antonio. Do they qualify as visiting artists for the purposes of having travel costs covered by grant money?
If they are like coming for a show, or they need to come and record, and there's promotion attached to that, you can pay for their hotel stay if they do not live here. If they are in the MSA, then they are considered residents, as far as this grant is concerned. So you can't do that for like driving expenses in from Bastrop. That doesn't work. But if it truly is someone who lives where they have to fly in or something like that, and they need to have a hotel, then that's fine.
My band has been playing for 2 years and has gone in a name change recently. Does this name change, with the documentation that they have under that one name as their band? Does it affect their eligibility for this grant? No. Quick answer, right there.
Hey, I'm sorry. You skipped my question.
Because I'm trying to understand your question. I was going right back to it. So
Okay.
do you mind if I read out what you wrote?
Please.
Really quickly?
Yeah.
So you're working on a musical, you've written a musical, and the ultimate goal is to stage a live production of this musical. However, that costs well over 30K. Totally understandable. Can these funds be used for things that will get public interested in a future live production? For example, videos that show what the production will ultimately look like. Erica, I mean, that could be content.
Yeah, if you're eligible as a professional musician or a promoter, that's fine. It's just like recording an album that's being marketed to potential tourists while that's happening. You have to continue to connect with your audiences. So as long as you fit that eligibility category and these are music activities that are covered, that should be fine. Also keep in mind, and I did see a question like this, that multiple awardees can pool their awards into one big thing. You just can't double dip what the expense is. You can't pay the same expense twice. So let's say you, as you're a promoter and you have 3 bands that want to be a part of this musical. You guys could all apply, and if you get awarded or whoever gets awarded can pool that, as long as you do not double dip and pay the same expense twice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Chase is asking a question around touring and promotion. If my band applies for making a record, the tour kickoff happening in Austin, I can use money to tour Texas to promote. You can use that money to promote your tour of Texas. You can use that money to finish the record. You can use that money possibly for an event here in Austin. 51% of what you will spend needs to go back into Austin's economy. And then also they said that they haven't, they're getting back to live shows, but have been in a band for 10+ years. Is that okay? That's perfect. And if all you have is proof from whatever proof, following that documentation, guys, there's so many things that can qualify to help you prove that you've been doing this thing for a while. So if you've been doing this thing since before it was a computer, I don't know.
Studio musician, you're a computer drummer that only does studio work. That's where the recordings come in.
So that's okay. That's okay. Just give us 2 years of all your greatness. I hope it answered your question, Chase. What does Section 3 mean exactly? Specifically hot around, this is from B. Santa Ana. If you want to elaborate here, feel free.
What section?
Yes,
Narrative.
I'm here.
Hi. Is there a specific part of Section 3, or Kim, is it sounding?
Yeah, it's the narrative, and the narrative is not scored. So the narrative is really just the reviewer or the person who's scoring their application to get an idea about what you are, what you're going to invest this money in. So it says explain how the investment of any awarded grant funds will improve and grow your business. And then it says explain how the investment of any awarded grant funds will attract tourists and convention delegates. You're not going to get a grade on that. You're just going to explain, like, what are you doing with the money, right? So that they get their head around that while they're looking at the way you answer your questions.
It's really to help you, to help the applicants to elucidate, to say what they want to do with this. And it does help the evaluators too, just to better understand, it's not scored, but it just gives a good sense of, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. Because we want to hear, after, when you do your reporting, especially your final reporting, we want to hear what was the money spent on? What did you do? And so that we can share that, as a data dashboard of like, this many went to live events, this many to recordings. This was the overall audience reach through all the marketing plans, which will be in the millions. So, just it's to help you to, so that you can start planning. Because again, it's small business development. This is to help you grow your business. And these are all professional development opportunities.
And it gives context to the score, because when they get to your budget part of your application, it is gives them a background, you know, some context to work with while they're living.
And to your point, oh, what we got? What's up?
Yeah, it was me. My name is Ivana. I had some questions and they got skipped too.
Okay, give me a second to answer one more of B. Santa Ana's. Can I collaborate with other grantees? You absolutely can. I think Erica mentioned that. Just make sure the expenses don't overlap. I'm so sorry for missing your question. Would you mind sharing quickly?
Yeah, so my questions were, and I'm helping a Spanish speaking band apply for these. One of their questions was if they can use, they're applying for the music as musicians. And one of their questions was if they can use the money to buy music equipment.
Yes.
And then, so that's, okay.
I read it. So
Okay.
I'm so sorry for skipping that. I thought for the one, it was about the proof. Those are the things that I saw in the LLC reminder. LLCs cannot be supported. That is a startup cost. Flyers from the past events to satisfy proof for independent. Yes. I hope we answered that part. Whatever proof you can pull, give us 2 years of it and it will qualify it. It's perfect. Yes, Erica, you have
Purchases of equipment, like if it's like a sound
cannot.
booth, or if it's like a new, if it's just for the use of how you're going to use the grant, it's accepted as a supply. But if you need like a new guitar that you're going to use for the next 20 years, that is not eligible.
Yes, I've been telling people rentals are accepted, purchases are not. You cannot invest in anything beyond your projects. And you would sort that out with the contractor, people that you do. But once that project is over, it cannot live with you. So whatever you need to get your projects done is eligible. From a soundboard, a recorder, you need a videographer.
Like if you know, like for this record, it's going to be a collaboration for, you know, there could be a special thing that you need that you typically wouldn't get, and that's okay.
Yep.
But if it's something that is, it's pretty obvious that it's like a $10,000 drum kit that you're going to use forever, that's not the intent of this grant.
Got it. Okay. And then things like outfits for a show, for like a specific show that will be performed within the 2 years, would that qualify? Okay, got it.
As supplies, you know.
Thank you so much. So sorry again. I was just trying to speed through these. I would like to use grant money to create a short documentary film about the Austin country music scene featuring interviews and film audio recordings of live band performances. Would this qualify?
If you are eligible, as again, fit the eligibility category, promote it, as you just have to follow all the requirements.
And they're a musician, by the way.
Yeah, and so also if you are if you're hiring folks or you're going to feature them and they are going to do a recording, like going to do a live show at a venue as part of this documentary, you can help pay for their time, you know, to do that show that's part of the documentary. So look at it from, again, just you have to follow the costs that are allowed. Eligible expenses, has to be marketed and promoted far and wide. And you have to still pay the musician rate if you are using those funds to pay musicians that are part of the project.
Our previous annual reports, wrap-up reports, available for review.
Oh, do you want to, you mean you want to see somebody else's report so you can see what you're going to be asked about? No, we're not typically releasing other people's reports or
If
something.
you have like questions, like once the awardees, people are awarded, we'll give you the awardees a detailed document of this is the type, this is what your reporting is going to look like. These are the questions you'll ask. It's things like how many people did you hire? You know, how many creative locations did you use? And these are related specifically to the KPIs, of the city of Austin, of what we want to track as for city dollars and city funds. But then we ask things like, is there anything, then we ask about your project at the very end of the final report, like, do you feel like you had new collaborations? Would you work with these new collaborations again? You know, things that we just want to see how how it worked for you. So not anything that's hard or a test, it's just tell us about how this money helped you.
Yeah, the reporting is very simple.
Yeah. How many people did you hire? How many people did you, yeah.
Is it possible for two musicians in the same home to get awarded? I'm wondering if that's the use of same address as well. That's when that question comes up.
Two separate bands.
Okay. There's a question on how activities have supported Austin economy. I think Ivana, hopefully I'm saying your name correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. They're asking, how do they prove that? They're around the question of their activities supporting Austin's economy. They go on to say the band I am supporting is thinking of providing a list of all events they have had and an estimate of people reach. Would that work?
Well, economy is, who do you hire? Like, where do you get your merch made, your t-shirts, your posters? What have you done venue rentals so that you can keep your ticket sales? That's supporting a creative space.
It's about supporting other businesses, you know. Yeah.
Like recording studios or.
Right. And so like your stickers you buy here instead of getting through you know, some distributor overseas.
Are you spreading the money around to other local businesses?
Yeah. Did we get that? Did we get you?
Yeah, thank you. And I think along that, so like the public events that have been formed in the past, how will the band be able to prove that? Like, will flyers work? And then can we use them, or can they use some of the money to pay for a rehearsal space?
Yes. Are you saying
yes to both?
Yes to, they can, flyers can be used for documentation. You can scan it, you can take a picture of it, upload it. As far as the expenses question, can you ask that one more time? You're going in and out.
Yeah, if a rehearsal space can be one of the expenses, like paying for a rehearsal space.
Yeah,
absolutely, as long as it's commercial.
Okay, got it.
And that's I just want to reiterate that if you have a home studio or you rehearse at your house, don't try to give us part of your rent as a rehearsal space. That's why we have to just cut it off at creative spaces or commercial spaces. That also, you know, helps the Austin economy as well. And so later, like let's say in 2 years, you apply again, you can say as part of your application, this is how I supported the local economy with my previous grant, you know, who you hired. So yeah, so don't try to get around that. You don't want to get audited in that way.
Yes. Can this grant also compensate collaborations such as music and puppetry collaboration for young family audiences? First of all, thank you so much for being one of the ones that are thinking about families and are young. Yes, mixed media is welcome. You can contract people or hire people to bring your project around music to life, and mixed media performance art is a part of that. We had that question last week around dancers and people flying from the ceiling or whatever else. Hey, you're hiring them, you're helping the economy. 51% needs to be dispersed within ours. So that's it. Erica, Kim, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that line.
No, and I just want to do a quick time check. We're running over our time, which we're fine. This will be recorded and put onto our YouTube channel, and we'll share that with you guys once it's ready. But if you have to leave, no big deal. People have been dropping off, but you know, we can go for a little bit longer, maybe 10 more minutes. Of course, you know, just refer back to our webpage we'll add a lot of the more, you know, frequent FAQs we've been seeing over these last 2 events. We'll get that onto the webpage here by the end of the week. So, you know, let's just take maybe 3 or 4 more questions. Shelby.
Okay. And then yes, I know that Nikki was here last week as well, and I see some new people. There are some, just so you all know, I am skipping some of the ones that are asking the same questions for sure. So if that's happening, they're popping back up. I see, when do you have to have 6 releases by? I think we actually answered that earlier, and I have more than 6 singles in my catalog, but not yet released. If you're going to use that as documentation in your proof, it needs to be done before the due date. That's hopefully you can push them out by then. If I began performing in 2022, would I meet 2 years mark? If not, with a number of performances, we need 365 days times 2. Somewhere in between that. It's very planned on that. So please see what you can do. But 2022, hopefully if you had some performing in the past, that's also eligible as well. So if you can bring us 2 years non-consecutive, that's fine. So I'm just wondering, related promoting tourism. I would like to use funding to record my band's album and also market each release item. Is that eligible? Yes, that is eligible to finish your projects and promote them. Studio records, live, and then marketing is a big part of this entire application. So yes.
And there's no limit on, there is no limit on the events, or that you have to do only this amount of events and this amount of recording. It's whatever you do in the next 2 years. And when you run out of 30,000 or the 15,000, that's when you run out and you report on what you spent.
Okay, we have a question around how are we defining a live event promoter as a let me read it from the top because my eyes are getting googly. I guess I have a question about how you are defining the live event promoter as a person who identifies as a live event producer who books. They're saying this about themselves, I guess. Additionally, can you speak around the 2-year requirement and the significance of the 2-year requirement? Is this the requirement of proof or the requirement of using the expenses? I might need some help around that. I guess assuming I've had over 2 years of live event producing and promotion experience, not explicitly within music performance though. Dean, if you're here.
Yeah,
if you
I'm here. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah.
So I guess my question, the second part of that question is primarily about, will promotion experience outside of music promotion experience, can that count toward the 2 years of experience? Are you saying no? Because a lot of I'm an arts and culture producer, so like do festivals that have like music bands performing in them, but it's not explicitly like a music event.
Kim, I'm going to let you take that one because it's, there are specialties to live music promotion. We really want to support the music industry. There are other grants that are around arts and culture, within the cultural arts division. And we really, the intent of council and mayor was to support the music industry here with, music exclusive promoters. Kim, do you have some thoughts here on what you've seen?
It's not just the intent of council too, it's also the state statute intent. And in fact, they gave this money to music for music, only music. So if you're gonna apply, then anything that you upload to show your proof of your past experience would need to be music oriented. And I wouldn't put anything else up there that's not music oriented. It's not music focused.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. What about marketing, promoting my music by going to radio stations out of town, still in Texas? And marketing and promotion, we want you to take it global. Do what you got to do. As long as 51% is poured back into this economy, let's go. There's no other thing as far as anything outside of Austin I think you should pour more into with marketing. Everywhere else, there's no other line item. So yes to that question. You can use that money to pitch to a radio station in LA. If they're asking for it, you can give it to them. As long as you make sure 51% is poured in here. Erica, Kim, I'll leave you all to elaborate if you choose.
You have to use the Austin Live Music Fund. Please be promoting the fund and Austin. All of us are here with the fund because of the potential tourism. But in the music industry, that's all we do. We promote far and wide. And so just keep that in mind, is just be a good steward of these funds by including the Austin Live Music Fund Presents. Live Music Fund. Or when you're talking it up with a radio station over outside of Texas, talk it up. It's pretty cool.
Can Thank you so much. Can I, as a professional, can I apply as a professional musician if I've only been performing with bands? Kim, Erica?
Yeah, yeah. You can apply as a professional musician if you've only been performing with bands. You don't have to be a solo artist.
I
You gotta
think,
commit to your band. So if, you know, if you're the lead for that band can only have one application. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I guess that was my question. Because I'm kind of applying as a musician, but I'm not applying for my band Tia Carrera.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're still a
let's say-
professional musician.
Yeah,
What's
that's
that?
okay. It's
Okay,
yeah.
so let's say one of my other band members happens to apply on behalf of Tia Carrera. Is that gonna be a red flag?
Well, if you're the lead of Tia Carrera, you know, we just can't double dip, you know, and so
As far as expenses and stuff, right?
yeah. And so really, if it's you as a professional musician and it can't have anything to do, you know, I would actually list a different band and then someone from Tia Carrera can apply for Tia Carrera. But I
Gotcha.
would really have a focus, just to be sure the evaluators understand this is not a double dip scenario, that you are using these funds as a professional musician to do other activities.
Got you. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, when will awardees be notified? I did skip a question, but that's a quick answer. When will awardees be notified?
Oh, I believe the Lime Center was saying, was it 30 days, Erica? No, 30 to 45 days.
Till June 18th closes, we'll need at least 4 weeks for the evaluation. And so if that's like by the end of July, well, I think is when we'll probably, you know, do announcements to awardees. And then there will be a date for accepting the funds, because after that comes the Elevate and Thrive grants in the Cultural Arts Division. And as you know, by ordinance, you cannot accept funds from both the Live Music Fund and the Cultural Arts Fund, which the Cultural Art Fund sources Elevate, Thrive, and Nexus. So there will be an acceptance date in September for all of the grants, except for the first Nexus round, where you can just decide on that date, like, let's say you apply for Live Music Fund, you're awarded, but you also just applied for Elevate, and which is a larger grant amount because it's just the way their grant program works. And you want the larger grant amount, you will have until this date in September to say, you know what, I'm declining the Live Music Fund, I'm accepting the awarded Elevate grant, and that's just fine. Or you can accept anytime and get the ball rolling on your agreement as soon as you hear that you've been awarded. So just wanted to make that clear to you guys. But if you forget to accept by the date, you're automatically awarded. So just FYI for, you know, I guess we'll have to figure out how, you know, we'll have to talk to whoever. If you have not accepted either grant, Elevate, or Live Music Fund, say by the date, we'll have to talk to you. The assumption is you'd go for the grant with the bigger fund, but we'll double check.
Yeah. And touching on these last few before we open it up, if that's okay, Kim and Erica, to Nikki, and I think Medina I saw her in long ago. So I want to make sure we get you first, Medina. But as a reminder, you can use this for a music video. You can use this for an event. You can use it to record the rest of your project. Local artists and individuals and businesses would like to be prioritized for this project, but as long as 51% of it goes back into our economy, it's okay. If I am a person that has a great question, Vanessa asks if they are the leader of 2 bands, should they include both of those bands in their proposal, their application, and should they be listed under their name if that's the case, if they do it separately? Like how, I don't think there's an option for you to do it separately. So if they're a leader of 2 bands,
no,
how does that work?
One award per person. So like if you're the leader of 2 bands, you're gonna have to decide which band you're gonna apply for. Now, if there is one of the bands where you're co-leaders, they can apply for the you know, the band for that other one, as long as you're applying for this other band. The 2 shall not meet. You cannot double dip.
Yes. And lastly, these last 2, is there a limit on how many events can be done with the grant money? No, and you can move around. If you have the space with these funds to do a music video and event, do it. marketing an event, music video, do it. You pick the pattern, you pick the cadence and how many events you can do. But you must follow the requirements on what we need from the marketing, the hashtag Austin Live Music Fund on all your projects. How much you pay contractors and people that stays the same. But whatever you can work in this grant, please do. And then last written question is, how long will the funds take to be paid to awardees?
So if once you find out in late July, if you're awarded, the Long Center will start very quickly to do what they need to do to get grant agreements done and your payment details with them so that they can do quick payments. I don't know exactly what the cadence will be, but they go quite, it's very efficient. So let's say, July, worst case scenario, end of August. And you can use the funds to reimburse yourself from the date of the application closing. If as those things are promoted, the activities that are eligible can start June 19th, sorry, which is the day after we close this application, and it would be considered a reimbursement to yourself, and that's fine. But remember, still keep the receipts. It's because the grant's covering it. So you don't have to wait until, like, I can't even start organizing until I get these funds. You can reimburse yourself if that's what you prefer.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for your questions here in the chat. MC Medina, if you'd like to go first and keep it as tight as we can. But for everybody else, if you have to dip, please feel free to do that or stay tuned for the rest of these questions. This will be posted on our website. It has been recorded, and you can always email us at music@austintexas.gov if you have any questions. But thank you all so much for joining and share with your friends and everything else. But MC Medina, if you still have your question, please feel free. Thank you for
Thank you so much. I'm gonna keep it super quick. I'm a BMI recording artist that lives here in Austin. I'm bilingual, so my application was gonna be done in Spanish, the Spanish version of it. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. One is Section 9 of the Spanish application that I'm going through right now. Says Section 9 grant award and tourism marketing plan budgets in English. It's the only thing that's in English on the whole application. I don't know if that's a typo, if y'all did that on purpose. Or
Cecile, if you're still on the call, if you could take a note of that, I will as well. And we'll let the Long Center know. They can easily go in there. Maria, who is part of the Long Center team, is bilingual and she can make those changes.
Okay, word. And then another thing is I'm working, I work with different artists in town. One of these artists is concerned about the qualification in regards to the 6 songs. Now, this artist has is a remix of a song considered the same song or a different song? This is the question. And then the song is called Let's Boogie, but then there's the Let's Boogie remix. Those are 2 different songs, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, and it's okay. It could be a combination. It doesn't have to be all those things. It could be 2 years of shows. It could be 6 recordings. It could be a combination of all of things. So just submit as long as it's online. If it's on a web page, a YouTube, Songkick, or all the different places where people go and get music. It can't just be on your hard drive. So it has to be publicly shared recording.
Okay, perfect. That's all we got. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nikki.
Hi there. You all have answered a few of the questions I had in the course of all this, but 2 of them that I have with regard to qualifying for the musician or artist part. 6 song. I have been a executive producer also with my own label here and have music that went as far as we released it here locally, including promotional on the radio. And I also had it copyrighted via the Library of Congress. Will that qualify as if I decide to, more than likely I'll go the promoter's route. But if I wanted to go the other route, would that qualify?
As a professional musician, as long as it's your
Right.
music, that regardless of how you've, as long as it's publicly accessible, that people can get to the recording somehow, that's fine.
Okay, so it still has to be publicly accessible now, or
at some point, you can just show proof that it was, that I've released these things, and it could be out of release, it could be out of print or whatever that happens. Or, the 20 records are out there and sold and who knows where they went, just as long as you have evidence of those releases at the time.
Yeah, I have the copyright through the Library of Congress, and then the airplay via like KZI or what have you. The other question, the payout of the grants, did you mention the 3-part? Because it seems like I saw that somehow divided up into 3 parts. Did y'all just mention that? It's like 10,000 paid at a time.
Payments. We're doing 50% upfront upon
Okay.
signature of contract, and then there's another 40% once you do your progress report, and then the last 10% is after you give us the final, and a final report is approved. Yeah.
Are there deadline dates for those 2 subsequent payments that I have to?
Well, there's no deadline dates on it. The deadline is you have 2 years to
Okay.
to spend
Right.
the money, and you'll get the 50% without doing anything except giving the lawn center your information so they can get the money to you and signing your
Okay.
contract. And
So
then
the payout is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and then you'll show us how you spent the first 50%, and then you'll get the next 40%, and then you'll show us how you spent that, and plus the last. You'll show us how you spent the last 50%, and then we'll get the last 1,000.
Okay, so
Whatever
those
the 10% is.
Those last 2 payments are prompted by when I submit my needed information to the Long Center, and then they go from there. Okay,
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It can happen really fast. Like you get your first 50% right
Mhm.
away with execution of the agreement. And then let's say you're like, okay, I spent this in 2 weeks because everything's coming up, and you can do a progress report for your next 40% as soon as the first 50% is spent, and you can show us what you're supposed to show us.
Right.
Right. Likely I would go the promoter route. And you all did say earlier in this call that, it could be events that promoted, over 20 years ago, or I think she said before, computers even came around. I have some, photos and all that stuff from those events and so on and so forth. So the promoter one probably would help me to get through the process a lot quicker than the music one. I just wanted to verify that. So thank y'all. I appreciate it.
All right, we're coming up to 3 o'clock. I'm gonna just say we can take one last question, and I really do appreciate all of your time. We will post this, or we will email this recording to all of the folks that RSVP'd, as well as the previous recording. We can't put it on our website, but the presentation's on the website. You can come to our virtual office hours. You can call the Long Center with any additional questions you may have. So is there one last question anywhere? All right. Well, I really appreciate all of your time. Good luck with your applications. We're excited to work with you. And so have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.